Wizard's hat, man.
I do. Hey, listen, we were playing a Vampire the Masquerade game, and every time I had to play my Malkavian scientist, I had to go put on my lab coat and my leopard print pimp hat. And
Oh, of course you were a Malkavian.
of course,
Of
I was
course
in
you were.
yeah, of course. You know?
I love it. Cool, cool.
In my blue lab coat and my leopard print pimp hat.
God fucking damn it.
I actually might have that
What
picture
else did you have on, like a fucking Speedo or something?
Huh? No,
Banana
unfortunately.
Banana
Unfortunately not.
Homelander in a banana hammock? What?
Oh, wait, hold on. Do I have the picture?
If it's you in a banana hammock, I don't want to see it, fuck.
Princess Consuela banana hammock.
Banana hammock, man.
Me.
Banana ham hand?
Aye, that one.
Damn hand.
I'd play that character. Be a barbarian, top of the food chain.
A halfling barbarian.
Top of the food chain!
Ha! Here it is. Here we go.
You thought of a halfling being top of the food chain, just reminds me of the fucking rabbits.
Here we go.
Oh, the ReZero bunnies, yeah.
I don't know, man, that tiny varmint. That's just a tiny rat. Oh, God.
Oh, fuck!
There you go, Cass.
Of course. Of course.
It was great.
You fucking dweeb, man.
10 out of
Also-
10.
To make it even funnier, the shirt that's underneath the lab coat says Uranus Mortuary. We bury him deep in Uranus.
Fuck.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, good times.
Right.
You ready, hon? You've been kind of quiet over there.
Adding my starter pack to inventory because I forgot to do that.
Alright, does anyone else have anything they still need to do or talk about before we start?
Oh, yeah. Good shout.
No, I think everything's set for me.
I think I'm good.
I put like
did do
one.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I did my one hook, and then I saw that Marcus went and saw my explorer's pack and went, no! Every individual item!
Yeah, he did have my survivor's pack as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds
I did some cleanup for people's sheets just so like everybody would, because like sometimes you look at Explorer's pack and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Or what have you. I think I got everything for everybody. I did do a check through on everybody's sheets and like literally Shanks is the only character in the game who doesn't have dark vision.
Yay! I am blind, boys. Point me at the direction and I shall swing.
And
Man.
everyone else can.
No.
2 half elves, a tiefling, or a packboard tiefling, and a weird wild hunt shifter who can all see in the dark. The wild hunt shifter can see especially well in the dark.
Yeah. I've never had a character with superior dark vision. I'm excited.
I played a deep gnome at one point, and that character was fucking obnoxious. But they made me the trap badger because I could see further than everybody else, even though I was playing a fucking wizard.
Nice.
Or no, I was playing a sorcerer, and I was pretending that I was psychic.
Because you can see farther.
Because I could see further, and like I took only spells that did psychic damage if I could manage it, and like I literally was doing the woo, like Mintalk the Mind Taker thing whenever I would cast spells at people.
Holy shit, Shanks. A co-op customer smashed up 2 shelves of wine and threw eggs and milk across the store after she was asked to follow the one-way system.
Oh Jesus
I mean,
Christ!
that's just a fucking child fucking throwing a tantrum. Jesus Christ.
Ah, dear.
I can't understand people like that, man. Honestly,
Oh dear! Oh dear!
never had a good fucking punch in the face.
And it shows.
It really does.
Let us know when you're good, Hillary.
Oh, we can start whenever.
All right, cool. So, yeah, as I said. Oh yeah. Also, another thing that I will say about my GMing style is I will frequently use the words "I think" at the beginning of a statement, which is me inviting the rest of you to like editorialize on my narration if you think you have a better idea.
Okay.
So, um, just because I like, again, I believe that like role playing games should be a cooperative storytelling experience where everybody kind of gets what they want out of it. So, to that end, um, we get our opening shot then of like an eagle or a falcon or some similar bird of prey, like flying uh, over the open fields that surround the city of Elturel, and it's difficult to tell what time of day it is because the city has its own secondary sun that makes it so that it's never quite night here. But far in the way in the distance, we can see that night has fallen over the rest of the Forgotten Realms, and where other cities might still be asleep, there are still people that are at work in the streets or in the fields that surround the holy theocracy that has risen in the wake of the birth of this second holy sun. And as the camera kind of like pans across the fields, it settles onto this small outlying hamlet dotted with trees and several buildings that are kind of like decentralized and dotted between fields of waving wheat. Um, and let's say the camera focuses on Cass's character first. Where do we find you as the episode begins?
You just find me lying in the wheat, just looking up with my instrument in hand, enjoying
Just
the secondary sun in the middle of the night.
just strumming away.
Yep.
Are you composing a new song or are you playing one of your favorites?
Oh, I'm just messing around, seeing if I can find something else that sounds kind of nice.
Sure. You've come here for inspiration or are you just on a trip for the hell of it? Like what
I
brings you out here?
I've come here traveling. I go from city to city looking for inspiration and hoping to enlighten the people's moods and have a good time.
Sure. And you have a locket, yes, that you wrote down on your character sheet, something that you found in the ruins of a village that had been raided, burned to the ground, and the people there killed.
Correct.
And you took it and you've carried it around as a keepsake of, like, what is that to you? Is this the thing that reminds you of what your job is as a bard?
This is the thing that I don't know. Just it makes me feel comfortable having it around, and I hope that one day I can help save those tortured souls by finding who burned their entire village to the ground.
Sure. Um, yeah, and so as you're sitting there and you're playing, you're just kind of noodling away on what is your instrument that you're playing right now? Are you playing your fiddle or
I'm playing the fiddle, yeah.
sure? So as you're kind of like messing around, like a gentleman appears from out of the wheat, um, wearing like a tailed coat, somewhat anachronistic in like the visual language of the show, right? Like it would be one of those where the rest of you have that more kind of like classical D&D medieval look. Probably this gentleman looks almost a little bit Victorian in his manner of dress, and he has like the mutton chops and is wearing what appears to be like a pair of sunglasses with red glass, like of the round type of lenses, right? And he comes walking out of the wheat, uh, And he looks down at you and he's like, "Ah, so you're the source of the music then."
Ah, indeed I am, sir. Indeed I am.
And he kind of like nods and he considers you for a moment and he's like, "Well, I suppose there's always a use for people who have the desire to keep others' spirits high, especially when they carry burdens that aren't their own. And whether the locket is around your neck or in your pocket, you feel this sort of weight that picks up as he speaks, as though it's become a little bit heavier and just a little bit warmer for a moment. But he reaches into his jacket pocket and he pulls out a gold coin and he flicks it towards you. And he says, you know, "For the song." And then he just turns and wanders back the way that he came, just as enigmatic as that, you know? And I think the camera probably stays with you for a moment to catch, like, your character's reaction to this weirdo.
Yeah, probably just watching him disappear and taking a moment to breathe, feeling the my chest finally relieve itself a little,
Yeah.
looking at the gold coin and then just putting it in my pocket along with the rest of it.
Do you have history as a skill?
I do not. No.
Okay. So perhaps it doesn't register to you that there's something that might be a little odd about the coin, but I mean, you could always try, right? Just because you're not trained doesn't mean you can't make the attempt. You're
This
just
is
going to
true.
be less likely.
This is true. I assumed it was just a regular gold coin, so I
Oh, yeah,
literally just added it to my
yeah,
inventory.
I mean, like it is still a gold coin. It spends like gold. But if you would like, you can click on the word history on your character sheet there, and you can attempt a skill check.
Well, let's see. No advantage, right? Just a normal roll.
Yeah, just normal.
Nope.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
gold. It's kind of old, but you know it's gold. Probably spends just the same.
And I add the
And so
gold to
yeah,
my pouch.
and the camera moves on, and it like lifts and flies across the village to some other location. And let's say Amaya, where do we find your character? What is your character doing?
Is it all flatlands around there, or is there any woods at all?
There is some wooded land nearby where people would go to hunt, and likely, you know, goblins or other monsters might dwell there as well.
Okay, then I'm probably on the edge of the forest, sitting in a tree, trying to hunt down a small piece of game, because it's about to be morning and I have rituals that I have to perform.
Right, you're interested in making sure that Bashaba is blessed by your offerings and
Yes.
what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, since I didn't die last night.
Right. And so I think we have you like perched on I guess actually I want to ask, does your character, I know that eventually you plan to become a Horizon Walker, right?
Mhm.
And have a mind to destroy the things in the world that are evil.
Mhm.
Does your character like have a reputation for this? Are you the kind of person that someone would call if they have a monster to slay, or is this just a thing that you've started doing recently?
It would be the natural evolution from a good hunter to a good monster hunter, if that makes any sense.
Right. Okay.
So
What an
I was
absolute
probably,
witcher.
yeah, I know, it's probably a very good hunter, right? And then
Yeah.
shit started happening with like things that weren't game, and I just kind of had to take it upon myself to adapt to the situation.
Yeah, and you've perhaps heard the voice of your god in the back of your
Mhm.
mind, kind of goading you on.
Yes.
And so yeah, we find you, I think, probably like perched, like in this tree, like listening and waiting. And can I get you to make me a survival check?
Sure. Ba, ba, ba.
Cool. So you hear movement in the brush, near at hand. You know, the tall grass and the small bushes that grow between the trees. But it doesn't sound like small game, right? Not like a squirrel or a rabbit. It sounds like something larger, creeping through the undergrowth. What do you do?
I'm probably going to shift myself around to face the direction it's in and just hold an arrow. Just
Yeah. So
hold.
you turn and you have the arrow drawn and you're looking down the length of the shaft at the direction you hear the sound originating from. And again, we get that anachronistic individual with the sunglasses like emerging from the undergrowth, and he looks up and like seems shocked to have an arrow directed at him. And he holds his hands up and he's like, "Oh, don't shoot, please."
Well, I supposed we weren't going to get anything anyway.
Yeah, and he kind of like looks at you and like tilts his head forward a little bit and kind of like lets the glasses slip down his nose so that he can look at you from over the top of the rims, and his eyes are different. They're not like immortals. They have an odd coloration to them, and like, have you ever seen what a goat's eyes look like?
Yeah, they're fucking creepy.
Yeah, like that is what is staring back at you from over top the rims of these sunglasses as he kind of stares up at you. And he says with a slight smirk, "Oh, I wouldn't say that. I just don't think your proper prey has arrived yet. But," and he pulls out like a pocket watch and flips it open and looks at it for a moment. "It should only be a matter of time." And then he closes it. He's like, "Let me not disturb you any longer, good sir." And if you have nothing else to say, he turns and
Yeah, I'll tell him something along the lines of bad luck avoid you.
he's like, "Yes."
Not good luck, just don't have bad luck.
And he's like, "Yes, I should hope that be the case." And then the camera moves on, and I don't know where. Let's see here, Shanks. Where are you? Would we find you?
I'm in a tavern having a drink.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in the little pub.
Yeah.
Call it like the Wandering Vagabond or something like that.
Okay.
Like just off the town square in this little hamlet that is Eltergard. And there's a few folk here that have come after their work shifts who are sitting about having a drink. The bartender is doing the stock NPC animation in the background, just like cleaning a mug with a towel and then setting the mug down and then picking up exactly the same mug and then beginning to clean it again.
Okay.
Have you found yourself a game, or are you just enjoying the silence?
I've just sat down and I'm looking for a game.
Sure. So you sit yourself down. The barmaid comes around, and you're a halfling, so she kind of like gives you a look for a moment. She's like, "Can I get you a booster seat?" Oh.
Fuck off, bitch.
She's like, "What? Oh, don't be like that. I'm just trying to make you comfortable. Drinks,
No, but I'll take
food,
a beer.
huh? Good." And she makes herself scarce, and as she walks away, like the camera follows her for a moment, and then when the camera swings back around, perhaps you just weren't paying attention, but this gentleman is sitting on the other side of the table from you again. Uh, just like he was with the others, wearing the suit coat and the sunglasses, and he's just kind of like peering at you. And he's
I
like, "Ah,
fucking nearly jump at my skin. Like, Jesus Christ, mate, where the fuck did you come from?
oh, I've been around, sir."
Okay.
Where did you
But
come from?
I
If I
would rather
might be
not
so
say.
bold. Well, same answer then. But it seems as though you're the gambling sort?
Yeah. Could you loan me a few coins for a game?
Yeah, I think he chuckles heartily at that, and he's like, well, I suppose it couldn't hurt. And he throws a few coins on the table, and he's like, let's put it this way, I won't charge you a buy-in, but let's say you win, you get this, and he's got like 5 gold coins that he's just kind of like spread out on the table.
Okay.
And if I win, well, I get the satisfaction of having beaten you, since I think you're probably the kind of person who has a reputation.
Okay. Fine then,
Uh,
Trump. Fine then. I'm game for this.
sure. So, I believe you should have a proficiency with gaming sets on your
Yeah.
character sheet. If you would like to roll that, it's probably going to prompt you for a stat.
Yeah.
Hmm, I guess, how are you going to try to win? Like, if you're going to try to cheat at cards, because he produces a deck of cards, right?
Right.
If you wanted to cheat, let's say you roll it with dexterity. If you want to win by bluffing, it could be charisma. If you want to try to count cards, it could be by intelligence.
I'll go with the dex and try to cheat him.
All right. Yeah, and I'll give him a fair
Holy-
chance.
Holy shit, was that a nat 19? God damn.
Yeah, so you through careful play, I don't know, you managed to get a card from the top of the deck, or perhaps you produce one from your sleeve, or by whatever means you manage to get the hand that you need to defeat him, and he doesn't seem to notice.
Okay.
And so you lay your cards down, and he lays down his, and at the end of the game, your hand is better. Um, and he leans back in his chair, and he kind of strokes his chin for a moment, and he's like, well, I suppose it always was going to be like that, wasn't it? You are just the lucky sort, aren't you?
Oh well, the luck comes and goes. I guess I'm just blessed by Time Aura.
And he nods, and he like pushes the coins towards you, and he's like, ah, yours then? Take
Thanks
my
very much, sir.
cards and be on my way. And he stands, but as he's about to leave, he kind of like knocks on the table for a moment with his knuckles, and he's like, that luck is going to serve you well, probably sooner than you think.
No, okay. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, and as he walks away, like the barmaid comes back over and sets the drink down. Um and she just kind of like gives you a concerned look for a moment.
Okay.
Do you say anything? Do you notice?
I say I've just come into some coin. Can I order some food as well?
She's like, huh, certainly. And then she's like, what? You know, she asks you for your order, and it's usual pub food, right? So you
Yeah.
probably just order like some potatoes and what have you. And
Yeah, yeah.
but as she's wandering away, you kind of hear her muttering to herself. She's like, I've never known anyone to play cards against themselves.
I have a look of deep confusion on my face.
Right. And so with that last shot of you being like, what? Like, the camera jumps to like our final intro where we find Hillary's character.
Oh,
And what are you doing?
I am working in the graveyard that I basically live in, tending to headstones and monuments and placing flowers and stuff all around.
Right. So you make sure that they're cleaned and like they don't have vines growing on them and what
Yes.
have you. Cool. So yeah, the usual like bone orchard of Kellamvor is this kind of like dour environment. Lots of gray stone, not a lot of color aside from like the flowers that you are planting or placing. Not a lot of people come here if they don't have to, right? Because death in all of its forms is a thing that I think most people wish to avoid, if at all possible. Especially so when we're talking about like a theocracy like Elturel, where people are more concerned about what their immortal reward will be, but also like military service in Elturel for the citizens. Um, outside of outside of like if you are a priest or something like that, military service is considered mandatory, right? Kind of like in Israel or other like modern countries, right? So because you have to serve the gods of good in order to like have a good afterlife, right? And so people are generally busy, so perhaps it is a little surprising when you're making your rounds through the cemetery and you see this kind of like colorful gentleman standing over one of the older graves in the cemetery, actually, one that dates back probably like 100 years. And he's dressed as previously described, the sunglasses, the suit coat. He's got like a cane in his hands, like he's got both of his hands like planted on the top of it, and he's just staring at the headstone. Do you approach him?
Yep, I will go right up to him and say, well, hello there. Are you here to pay respects to a loved one?
And he continues to stare for a moment longer, and then he turns and he looks towards you, um and he shakes his head a little bit, and he's like, not a loved one per se, but someone whose destiny, I think, is about to come due. And if you look at the gravestone that he's looking at, it's one of those where the name has long ago kind of weathered away, because again, it's a headstone that's like 100+ years old. But what you do know as a keeper of the cemetery is that this particular headstone and headstones like it are markers for a group of men and women who became the founders of the Order of the Hell Riders, which is a group in Elturel composed of both spiritual and martial combatants who can trace the lineage of their order back to the paladins and fighters and you know other individuals who charged into hell at Zariel's back with the intent of vanquishing the devils and the demons that dwelled in the deep. Um, it was an ill-fated plan. History says that the battle did not go well, and Zariel told these individuals to return to the material plane and continue the good work as best they could, while she fought a holding action to keep the devils and the demons at bay long enough for them to return to Earth and seal the portal behind them, so that none of these beings could escape and cause harm. And I don't know, does that resonate with you at all, or do you just kind of like, how do you respond to his cryptic speech?
Probably just staring with an eyebrow cocked, trying to figure out what he means.
Well,
And will, sorry, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this.
oh sure.
Well, that's nice, dearie.
Would you like a cup of tea there?
Cup
Wow,
of
you
tea,
guys are
father.
spot on. She will kind of go back into hospitality mode after staring at him for a hot second and be like, "Oh, I see. Well, could I perhaps interest you in a cup of tea and you can tell me more about it?"
And he nods and he's like, "Oh, that would be lovely, dear. Lovely. Shall we sit out here or shall we?" And he just kind of like motions for you to like lead the conversation.
"Please follow me. I have a lovely little sitting room in the shrine just over here." And she
Yeah,
will lead
so
him over to a shrine to Kelemvor that she basically lives in. It's a modest little place with few possessions, but she's got like a bedroll in the corner and a small table with two chairs and a little fire pit to cook on.
yeah, and so he sits when you bid him sit, and he kind of like remarks, "It's unusual to see one in your particular field be so bright and lively."
Death can be a very scary thing. I think it's important to have some positivity to help people deal with it.
I agreed. And he kind of waits for you to like make the tea, and probably makes a little idle conversation about like your daily chores, and he seems genuinely interested in you as a person. um I don't know how your character feels about, somebody being like more interested than they probably normally are, right? Like, I get the feeling that people probably avoid Kelemverite priests because of what you represent.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. But once he has the tea in hand, he takes a sip. Uh, he seems quite grateful for it. Um, and I think he sets the cup back down on the saucer. And we have like a camera angle that kind of sees his reflection in sort of the rippled like surface of the teacup. Um, and he's like, "I know that you understand death, but are you a student of history as well?"
To an extent, I can't say it's something that I study extensively, but I do have some knowledge of it, I suppose.
Yes. And he kind of like motions with his hand then, and you understand it to be in the direction of the monument that he was looking at before you came in here. And he's like, "I assume then you know the stories of the Hell Riders."
I've heard stories. I'm not sure how much is true and how much is embellished.
Yeah, and at that he kind of like lifts his finger and he points at you and he's like, "Ah, yes. Then you understand my point. Not everything as recorded is as it was. It's especially true when we speak about people who cleave tightly to religion, you know?"
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and kind of like, again, this whole shot's been sort of in the reflection on the surface of the liquid, and like for the audience we get this kind of like vague like shimmer effect that shows, rather than showing him or you, it suddenly shows like the fire blasted and cracked fields of Avernus. Um, and you see that there's a host of devils who have gathered together and are assembling what appears to be large machines of fire blackened iron. Um, and at the helm of the host is this angel with like just bright burning wings. The one that's in the picture there, in fact. Um, and he just kind of like thinks for a moment and then just waves his hand. He's like, I suppose you'll understand soon enough. And he kind of like finishes the tea and he's like, thank you, dearie. It's been nice to have a conversation with such a vibrant soul.
Oh, you're welcome to come back here anytime. I unfortunately don't receive many visitors.
Yes, well, I think we might be seeing each other again soon enough. I just have another errand I need to tend to for the moment. And he stands and gives you a bow and then makes his way out of the scene. Um, at which point, this would be the place where if Avisa was here, she would likely get her moment as well, but she'll turn up in due time. And so we have a bit of a passage of time, a little montage of just like, again, it goes back to Shanks, your character, playing cards. Cass, perhaps your character has begun to wander, or maybe you're still in the field. I'm not the boss of you. um, but I think probably it is from like your perspective, Amaya, that we go back to, and you've managed to catch like a rabbit or something. Are you still out in the woods?
Until I catch something.
Yeah, okay. So you've got your prey in
Mhm.
hand. And like, are you going to just start doing your rituals immediately, or do you have a place you intend to go?
No,
Um,
I'm probably fairly comfortable with the area, so if there's no imminent danger, I'll probably just sit down and do it right there because I lost a bunch of time talking to the weird guy.
sure. So you've sat down, like, I imagine perhaps you're sat like cross-legged in the grass or whatever, and you're
Hmm.
preparing like the catch. Um, and your family has this kind of like history with the dark arts, yes. Um,
Yeah,
do you have like flashbacks to that in your life? Do you?
I
I don't
haven't
know.
I haven't really considered them yet. I sent you a little thing
Yeah,
to kind of, like I said, I don't have the full backstory thought out, but
sure.
basically, yeah, my family has a connection with the dark arts. Being what we are,
Yeah,
we use the dark arts to bolster our strength and increase our affinity to the uh, beasts that we can shift into.
yeah,
I I took that a little too far once and contacted something I shouldn't have, and
yes.
it haunts me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love it. Like, I think it's like one of those things where like in a show like, like Supernatural or one of those like quote unquote like quasi horror shows, like you get like these brief like flashbacks that are not like clear enough to paint the picture of what happened to you, but like indicate to the audience that like something terrible happened in your past, and maybe that's what's motivating the rituals that you're performing and
Mhm.
your habits, right? But it's not enough to let people know what's going on so that you as the player have more time to think about it. But I think like what is prompting this flashback in this moment is not um it's not the ritual, it's not the habit. Like, these are things that you do every day. For you, I think it's the faintest hint of brimstone on the wind, right?
Mm.
What do you
I, d-
do?
I don't like that smell. I'm probably gonna sit up from what I'm doing. I'm probably half or three quarters of the way through the ritual and just kind of stand up. Like a rabbit sits up and like looks around to
Right.
because it senses danger. And
Yeah.
can I tell where it's coming from? Or
Um. Yeah. You
or
want to make a survival check or a nature check? You can try to locate it. I know
sure.
you have an extremely good sense of smell too, don't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, do so with advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you can tell from which direction the scent is originating.
Hmm.
It's being carried on the breeze, which is coming from the city.
Okay.
Which would take you towards the village if you were to begin heading in that direction.
I will probably risk the ire of Bashaba just a little bit. Like, I'll finish the ritual, but I'll kind of do it in like what I would consider a hurry, because you guys will realize soon that my character is very methodical.
Sure.
Like, but what I consider a hurry, and then start half jogging, running,
Yeah, but
fast walking.
you still take the time, right? Which I think is
Yeah.
what is important here is you take the time to finish the ritual.
Mhm.
And like again for you, Cass, like I don't know where Ray has found themselves, but you likewise like you get that aura or that noxious odor of brimstone that hits you in the face. Seemingly just filling the air. And because you're in the village and much closer to the city than Amaya is, like the brimstone smell is much stronger and like growing stronger still by the moment.
Okay. How close to the city are we?
So you're like a few miles away, in this kind of like little village. Like you're close enough that you can see the walls and you can see the gleaming like ivory and gold towers. You can see the orb of the companion like hovering in the sky. But like to reach there with any haste would require you to like get like a horse or a wagon or some other means of like rapid transportation, right? Which perhaps you could do here in the village.
Well, can I roll to try and find out where the smell is coming from first of all?
Sure.
Uh,
Survival, navigate, or survival, nature. You could do perception, I guess, in this case, since you're kind of like in it.
yeah, I'll roll perception.
Yeah, you have this understanding that the scent is being carried on the wind, and the wind is coming from the direction of the city, right?
Yeah. Is there anything nearby I can climb up to get a better view of the city?
Yeah. Let's say there's like a tree nearby, since you were out in a field, and I imagine it's probably one of those. We have like you stand up from like the wheat field, say, and you get like as you see in like really artsy pictures of like the UK or whatever, there's like an old like stone laid fence that like comes up to an ancient like 100-some-odd-year-old tree with its gnarled branches.
Mm-hmm. Can I try attempt to get to the top of the tree?
Yes. You can make a climb check or athletics, I guess, in this case.
Acrobatics.
Sure, why not?
Oh no, athletics. Yeah, sorry, my bad. There we go.
I mean, if one is better than the other, and you can describe to me how you acrobatically climb a tree, like I'm fine with it.
Yeah, let's see. I jump off the small stone wall surrounding it and start to grab each branch, pulling myself up higher and higher.
You're doing like a complicated like
Shadow of the
parallel
Colossus
bar.
style going.
Oh,
Spin
yeah,
round
okay.
And then flip off, like backflip, parkour, fucking
Hardcore
style.
parkour.
Yeah.
Right.
Hardcore parkour.
So yeah, you get to the top of the tree, and your head pokes out from like the branches and the leaves, and you're balancing like precariously, and you're looking towards the city. And in the shot that we have from your back, like over your shoulder at the distance, the companion hovering in the air above the city. Normally this bright orb of perfect white light begins to darken until like it begins to like it's almost like if it was a glass sphere with a hole at the top, and someone started pouring ink into it, right? And it just begins filling with this darkness that like begins to dim the light, all around you and like make it clear that it is still night in Faerun, regardless of what the gods might want otherwise. And as the light begins to fade and the darkness fills in the orb more and more, the companion begins to crackle with an unearthly energy, and the ground quakes. And
Oof.
Shanks and Hillary, both of you, in each of your respective locations, you feel it as this earthquake like ripples through the earth. What do you guys do? And I mean, like, speak in whatever order, right? But like both of you, like, what's the vibe as this all begins to come apart?
For me, I notice it's getting a bit darker outside and it's giving me a concern. And then I feel
Right.
the rumble on the ground, so I pick up my winnings if I've got any,
Yeah.
and then like I head to the outside to have a look what's going on, and like obviously see what's the scene that's in front of me, and then
Yeah.
like I don't really know, like kind
feel-
of look for like I don't know somewhere that someone that could tell me what's going on. Like, is there anyone about that I can ask what the fuck happened?
I
Did
think
you
I
see
think
what happened?
everybody else that's out on the street around you are all just staring at the
Yeah,
companion in like shocked horror, just
yeah.
like covering their mouths, and like panic is beginning to set in to the people that are around you. Like, what's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty much in the same boat, like, so I don't know, like, maybe try to find my way up to some higher ground to try and get, like, a better look.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy for you. You could climb up on top of like the tavern, or like you could,
Yeah,
find a stack of boxes or
I'll climb
whatever.
up on top of the tavern then.
It's just such a
Yeah.
shame there's not any yellow pages.
I know, right? I should have taken that booster seat.
You should have.
Same for you. Athletics or acrobatics, however you want to frame climbing to your better vantage point.
It has to be acrobatics just because a little fat halfling trying to do a backflip on a roof would be hilarious. Amazing.
Okay.
I attempt to flip my way up to the roof.
Yeah. So, it's not as like it's not as though you can't do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think where we got the very triumphant like Shadow of the Colossus style climb from Cass, for you it's like you run and you jump and like you're starting to like try to do like the wall run up, and like you kind of slip a little bit and you're like grabbing onto the guttering, and like it kind of like
Struggle my way up, but yeah.
yeah, we get a comedic moment amidst all of this horror of you just like pulling your fat belly up over the edge of the roof and like getting up to the steeple and like putting your hand on the weather vane, just like huffing for breath because
Yeah,
it's just
like
like
wipe the
oh
sweat off my head, like Jesus, fuck.
yeah.
So then
And-
that's
and-
the city then, I guess.
Yeah, and as you watch, like the companion finishes filling with this inky darkness, and like it has become like a night, right? And in that moment, like you can see the stars in the sky above you, like you haven't been able to since you've been here,
Yeah.
and that crackling energy that was surrounding it coalesces into like bolts of lightning, as though they were formed in photographic negative that just lance across the city, and like there are explosions and flame, and towers begin to collapse as the thing that gives the city its power begins to destroy it.
Okay. I regret my choice of hanging on to the weather then. So right, so obviously chaos and shit happening in the city. So I
Yeah,
guess I'd just like kind of leave my character climbing down and like heading that way
yeah,
to
and
see if he
people
can help.
are shrieking and worried, and I don't know. How's this strike you, Hillary?
Well, first I would have assessed the graveyard for damage from the earthquake, and then I would move
Yeah.
towards more civilized society to assist anybody who has been injured
Yeah.
in the earthquake.
Yeah, and I think like as all of this is kind of like happening in the background, right? Like the city is being struck by lightning and the ground is shaking. Um certainly like the like you know what I will actually do this. Like the image that we get as you kind of like run out and you're like looking around the cemetery, you know, there's fire and there's smoke in the distance. That headstone that the strange gentleman was looking at that you spoke with earlier has cracked, um, and has fallen. But only that one specifically. Like the other ones, like perhaps are, you know, like in the way that any kind of like natural phenomenon might like make things a little bit more tilty or whatever. It hasn't like destroyed them, but this one headstone in particular has seemingly been sundered where all of the others have been spared.
So I have an inkling, and I want to know if you'll let me roll something to see if I'm correct.
Sure.
I have a feeling that the eccentric stranger
Hmm.
is actually the person that that particular monument was dedicated to.
You could try Arcana or religion maybe to see if you can maybe put things together a little bit better. Yeah, you can't recall the name, right? As I said, the gravestone is very very old, but you recall thinking back to that moment where you spoke with him when you first saw him. He had this kind of like wistful expression on his face when he was looking at the gravestone. Um and it was almost as if you had distracted him from a reverie when you kind of came up to him. Um and you've heard the stories, right? The ancient Hell Riders charged into hell at the back of an archangel, and then were forced to return to the material plane, unsuccessful. Um, but maybe the story has always kind of felt a little off to you, right? Like, why would the angel, other than just for the fact that they're the sake of or the sake of them being particularly good, like why would they tell their only help, their army, to flee from them while they stay and fight? And like maybe you've heard through like darker rumors that like the archangel that they went to hell with has herself become an archdevil who rules the first layer of hell, right? Like things don't add up. And maybe it occurs to you that sometimes when individuals sell their souls, they themselves become devils, you know? But it's just a feeling for the moment. You might be able to put more research into it and come up with a better like theory later, but like yeah, I think your thought might be on the right track.
Okay.
But regardless, um as we all have our various like, you know, these two looking out at the city like Bosing Ball like climbing back down, being like, "Oh God, lightning!" and you know, your wild shifter running towards the village nearby. Um, the next kind of like clear image that we get of the city itself is as these giant mechanical creations of fire blackened armor like erupt from the earth on the perimeter of the city's walls, towering above the battlements, and these writhing snake-like iron chains like lance out from them and hook themselves into the towers and construction of the city and begin just like ripping it apart and pulling it down into the earth. Um, and you know, one of those like I'm gonna take the narrative moment as the game master to just be like, there's nothing you can do about this. Like when the smoke clears and these fountains of magma and these machines have receded, like the city of Elturel and the orb that once hovered in the sky above it is gone. And there is just smoke and darkness and embers of flame drifting through the air like fireflies. And all around you are just the few panicked individuals who have survived the sundering of the city because they live out here in this satellite village rather than those people that lived in the city itself.
Well, now that is bad luck.
Right? So what do you do?
Look for survivors that are close to the perimeter from my current field of view.
Sure. So you climb down from the tree, and you head in towards the village with a mind towards finding survivors. Hillary, you already said that like you were going to plan to go look for people or look for the wounded as well. Yes.
Yes, and I will also probably be performing rites for those that are dead, like no chance of
Oh
revival.
yeah, for sure. And you know, Amaya, you're headed towards the village. Shanks, you're already in the village, and you're.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to help people.
How far
like,
away am I from the village? Am I gonna be
think it-
running for a day and a half?
No, I think at this point it's like you're probably getting to the edge of the village, like
Okay.
as this is all kind of like coming to a head, right?
Mhm.
And you can hear the shrieking and wailing of these like injured survivors, and like all of the chaos, like the fallout from it is like close at hand and like in your ears, right? Same for you, obviously, Shanks. Like you're in the middle
yeah,
of it.
yeah. So I'm trying to help, like, see if there's anyone I can help, and like just try to usher them away for the village and the carnage and shit.
Yeah. So we probably get again like a little montage of like, you know, cuts between like your character like helping someone up from out from under some rubble, and like Cass, you found someone that you're like, I don't know, would you help someone that's injured like walk? Like I don't want to narrate for your character too much.
He would
right?
he would do what he could to help, and probably take as many people as he could to where is there a safe spot that people are gathering in the village?
Yeah, like I think you find like a group of farmers or whatever that are just like, we should go to the square. When things happen, we're supposed to go to the square, right? And they're just like they're being very insistent about it in that way that like people that don't know what to do and just default to what they've always been told.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So start helping just a woman in who's badly hurt her shoulder and has a graze on her leg, and just helping her get to the square with her little son in tow who's got no idea what's going on. She's trying her hardest to
Right.
reassure him.
Oh God, you had to throw the kid in, jeez. It's just like, what's going on? Where's Daddy? You know,
I've seen this episode of ReZero before. Fuck.
Here, kid, have a flute. This will keep you happy.
Right. And we get the shot of you know, Hillary is like tending to a wounded individual, and I don't know, what's your first instinct, Amaya? Like,
Get to the top of something, a tall building or something that gives me line of sight.
sure. Yeah, again, athletics, acrobatics, however you want to frame climbing. I
God.
think you're able to find like a tree or like a building with a steeple or something that you're
Yeah.
able to kind of like.
If there's a church in the area, I want to try and get to that. Just kind of hand over handing the rafters and the bricks that stick out. You know, just kind of vaulting my way up.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got a very like Breath of the Wild, like climbing the outside of a church. And you get onto the kind of the slate shingled roof, and you turn your gaze up towards the steeple with its bell. And I think as you're starting to climb, the bell begins to ring with this very, like, loud clang that has like all of the artfulness to it of like a suit of armor being thrown down some stairs, right? Like it's not particularly melodious, and the bell ringing seems to be um, very insistent in the way that one might if they were attempting to gather people together um in the wake of a disaster, right? Like this is the like everyone come here so that we can take a head count and we can figure out what to do next kind of alert, right?
Can I see if there? I want to look for two specific things, and if there are both, then I'll take precedence on one. But can I
Okay.
see if there are any like bad dudes running around, or if there are any groups of people that are like stranded?
Um from your current vantage point, like you can see um there are strange shapes that are moving in some of the nearby fields. Some of the fields have caught flame. Some buildings have collapsed or similarly caught in fire nearby. Um, what you do see though is you see a lot of people who probably like 20 or so people who are just like tiredly making their way towards the chapel where you find yourself right now. And among them is definitely like you see this half elf who's helping like a woman and her child. Um, there are definitely like survivors nearby that could use assistance, but there is certainly something unusual about the figures in the distance who are not making any attempt to come towards the bells that are telling those survivors that this is where there is safety.
Okay, and I can't see what those things are.
I mean it's quite a distance away, so like if you had like a spyglass perhaps, like
I do
you
not.
you can tell they're vaguely like human shaped,
Mhm.
but like in a way that strikes you as like wrong.
All right, I will keep them in mind, and then I will go try and reach the farthest group of people that I can see, like the farthest away from the church. Now that I know where the church is,
Yeah.
and help guide them back.
Okay, so I think then it's probably Hillary and the person that she's been tending to, and the dead that she's performing like last rites for, right? Like it seems like she would be the slowest to make it there. Um, so you arrive on the scene, and I guess Hillary, what does it look like as you're taking care of these people?
Um,
He weighs
like
like 220 pounds, and he's just kind of superhero landing like right next to you,
It's
just
a
like
superhero landing. It's a
planted.
superhero landing.
He's
Yeah.
gonna do it. He's gonna do it.
I mean, he's jumping off a roof, so you know.
Right.
I will look up and just kind of stare at him for a hot second and then get right back to work, reassuring the person that I am trying to assist that everything will be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to
And like
die, but don't
it's
worry.
it's
I'll
clear
perform last rites for you. That'll be
it's
no
clear
problem.
that they're very much not feeling the everything is gonna be okay, but like they're trying to put on a brave face for you because you are trying so hard. But like, they're surrounded by the ruins of their own village, and there's at least a couple of dead here already just from everything that's happened. But you're doing your best, and Amaya, this is what you see. There's a priest who's trying to tend to the wounded and deal with the dead. Um, just kind of out here in the road.
It isn't safe to stay here. Bad luck will surely find you. We should get you to the church, which appears to be the safe haven in this emergency.
I think that's an accurate assessment of the situation. Do you think you could help me carry these people to safety?
Of course. However, it seems that one of them is already dead. Best to leave them for now.
I will kind of stand there biting my lip for a moment, considering what to do. I don't think that's a good idea. If you can carry the injured, then I will tend to the dead.
Very well. This way, please.
Yeah. And so you have to like pick up like the most injured of them and carry them, and then the rest are willing to follow, right? And I'm not going to make you roll for it because I don't find it particularly interesting to determine whether or not you're capable of carrying someone who's hurt,
I
right?
don't know. I like the idea of him trying to roll to see how many he
I-
can carry, and if he carries too many.
I don't know.
Oh
Is
yeah,
it-
I mean,
is
I
it-
guess if you want to like put many people on your back, then like by
I
all
don't know.
means.
I don't know. Are any of them shaped like Cass? Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's try it.
I
Hey,
think
that's not bad. Oh wait, no, that's my old roll. I haven't actually rolled yet.
I think it would be
Hey, that's
athletic.
not bad.
Yeah, no, I think you're able to like help them along quite capably. I think. You know, whether it is this you've put them on each of your shoulders or however you would like to frame it, like you're able to get the injured headed in the direction that they need to go, while you know the cleric tends to the dead.
What an absolute all might.
And like
That is
you know the appropriate rituals, and you have the oils and the incense that you need being a cleric. So I think it's more or less just a matter of the time it takes, right? But
Fear
you,
not, for I am here.
amazing.
but you're able to perform last rites, and I think in amongst the smoke and the destruction, you also see that there are odd forms moving amongst the rubble, right? Like it's one of those things where I think but you're definitely going to stay and perform the ritual, yes? Like
Yes, I am. And while I am in the middle of performing the last rites, I will say a quick prayer to Kelimvor for protection, basically, as I see these weird things moving around.
sure. Um let me think here. No, I'll hold back for the moment. Yeah, you say your prayer, and either by happenstance or perhaps, as you might believe, by your god's blessing, because you are doing his work, they don't find you, and you're able to like finish what you're doing and flee in the direction of the church fairly easily. And so within a few moments, we have the four of you and the people you've been helping gathered together in the the courtyard, or like the square in front of this
The
little
dueling
church.
circle.
The dueling circle. No, like the town square, basically, right? And this little chapel that has this bell. And like the door stands like pushed open, and someone like obviously like hurriedly ran inside to start making use of the bell. Um and like it becomes clear after like basically, you know, Hillary arrives as like the last one that no one else is probably coming. Um and there is a woman who is standing in the doors, who kind of emerges into the crowd. And she's a young woman, probably like in her mid 20s, human with like dark colored hair in kind of like complicated braid work that's accented with like little bits of gold, who is wearing like white robes accented with red, and a white stole around her neck. The ends of both appear to have been dipped in blood. Um, and around her hands and her forearms and her shins and her feet, she's wearing what appears to be a very complicated set of like knotwork braids that are made out of a twine that is similarly like a blood red color. I think basically anybody who has any religious inclination at all will probably recognize this woman as being part of the priesthood of Ilmater, which is a deity of like martyrdom and perseverance, and like they're known for a little bit of like self-flagellation, right?
Kinky.
And she's kind of like, got her hands like together in front of her, just kind of like making like a worried motion with her palms, as she emerges into the crowd. And as the bell stops ringing, this kind of like hunched old man who's probably in his 60s or 70s, with dark skin and like gray hair in like tight cornrows, who like one of his eyes has clearly been like mauled by like a cougar or similar like large cat, like emerges from the chapel behind her, like with using like a shepherd's crook to keep himself upright, right? And he appears to be the one who was like ringing the bell. Yes.
Can I make a perception check so I know what kind of animal did it? It's important to my character.
Absolutely.
I love it.
It was a
Fucking
bear.
hell.
Oh, okay.
It was a fucking bear that clearly like wrecked this old dude's face.
Sorry, I need to know, guys.
His character's just like, I fucking knew it. Like,
Yeah, like despite the fact that he's like 65 or like 70, he is an absolute unit, right? Like, and as he like emerges from the chapel, this giant, and I literally mean like for the species, a giant goat with just like the shaggiest like gray coat and these big like curling horns and like a bell around its neck that's like tinkling as it walks, like makes its way over to the old man and kind of like butts its head against his shoulder, and he like reaches a hand up and like pets it between the horns, and then the goat like goes back to eating like the grass from around the foot of the temple. And the young woman steps forward, and she just kind of like looks across the crowd, and she's just like, "Oh, is this all there is?"
Unfortunately, yes. We did do our best. It seems that our best was not good enough, though.
Yeah, and she kind of like lets her face droop at that, and she's just like, "Oh, if only we'd been faster."
Trying to find
I
something.
doubt. I doubt there is anything you could have done to avoid this. Just bad luck, I suppose.
Well, look on the bright side. At least we're not in that city over there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the city over there, and like camera cuts to like smoldering crater now partially filled with cooling magma.
Ooh.
Which is just like gone from the face of the earth. And she kind of just like looks at the both of you, and she's like, I would not have thought to take such a cavalier approach to it, but I suppose you're correct.
Incidentally, you're still alive. So, win-win.
Yeah, and she just kind of like huffs a sigh, and she's like, I suppose that's true, but I doubt we'll live much longer if we don't get to the business of getting out of here.
That may be harder than you think. There are entities in your fields. It may be dangerous to go out right now until we have fully assessed the situation.
Yeah, and I think her eyes go wide at that, and she like lifts a hand to like daintily cover her mouth and hide the gasp that like audibly escapes when you say that. And she's like, you know, you think there are things in the fields?
Well, I can't say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, hon.
Can I insight check her to see if that was genuine surprise?
Yeah, sure.
I think roll 20's acting up. There it is.
As far as you can tell, she seems very earnest.
Okay.
Like she in fact I will say that like just kind of like looking at her, it really does kind of feel like everything that you're saying that like implies like the death of a person or the complication of escaping from this situation is like just being laid upon her shoulder like another weight that she'll have to carry.
Okay. Then I will try to reassure her that the gods will see us through this difficult time.
Yeah, and she nods and she's like, "Yes. Uh, do you think you refer to yourself as sister, or do you like how what title would
Mother?
you like?"
Um,
Because I
I
think game
suppose I could.
recognized game, right? Like you are also a cleric.
Yeah. I would assume sister.
Okay. She's like, "Yes, I should hope so, sister." And like as you're kind of having this exchange, the elderly man behind her kind of like puts his own calloused hand on her shoulder, and he's like, "Yes, the the Kelimverite is right. We should focus on what we can do, not on what we have been unable to do." And she kind of nods. And she's like, "Well, uh, I suppose then if and she kind of looks at all of you, even like noting I think at some point in all of this, obviously like Shanks, you arrived in this situation.
Yeah. I've walked up and like just been given the bard the stink eye, like a bit of
Yeah,
that
like
fucking bard.
yeah, the two of you are just like over in the back, like fucking like chewing on the scenery, like jabbing at one another at this point, probably.
Yeah.
um,
Like
she's like, "Well,
fucking
at least
bard. Why is it whenever you're here bad shit happens to me? God damn.
Don't blame me. Just blame your lovely goddess.
this is how we write good songs, boy." Uh,
Uh, Luxie is for her.
but yeah, and she kind of like looks at each of you in turn, and she's like, "Well, at least if we have the aid of adventurers, we should be able to pull through, regardless of what's in the fields. I think what we need to do now is we need to arrange a caravan so that we can get these survivors out of here."
If things turn from bad to worse, how many of you are capable of fighting?
Um, yeah, and I think a lot of the people who are out here are kind of looking at one another with like um, that sort of like what who us kind of like. But the woman herself, she's like, "Well, I can perform miracles in the name of my deity," and Gorin here, and she kind of like indicates the man standing behind her. He's still quite capable despite his age, and like you have no doubt that what she says is true when you look at him, right? Like despite his advanced age, it's like the old monk in a kung fu movie who is definitely gonna kick the shit out of you.
Like,
Fucking Mr.
dude is
Miyagi over
fucking
here.
swole. Like, fuck.
Yeah. There are others that might be able to help, though. Perhaps. And she
Like,
kind
I
of
step
like
up. I step up and say, like, I'm quite handy in a fight.
Yeah, and she's like, she looks down at you and she's like, like, do you
Visibly
like?
doubts.
No, like I'm trying to decide. Like, you look more like an adult than a child, right? Like,
Do you need
Yeah.
a
she's not
booster?
gonna be like,
Do you need a
Nah,
booster
like I
club?
look, you can tell I'm like an adult. Like I'm a
right?
middle-aged halfling,
Yeah,
but
I'm
like
just
I don't look like I'm handy in a fight. So like visible doubt would be appropriate, I guess, because
right.
I'm
So
just
literally
gonna
a fat guy.
interrupt in the middle of the conversation and say, don't worry about him. The only thing he's good at is losing money.
and she kind of like looks between the two of you because I think there's a moment where you step forward and she's gonna be like, "It's all right, little boy," and then she like realized that like you're not a child, you're just a halfling, and then like Cass interjects and she kind of like looks from you to him, and then like, I have a concern, you know, and like she's trying to figure out how to put her thoughts together, and you know, Goran like steps forward and he's like, I think what Dara means is that there are a handful of people who have yet to arrive that might have managed to survive.
I'm gonna interrupt and say that I had a good view of the situation, and that it's highly unlikely anyone outside of this village has survived.
I must concur.
Yeah, and he nods and he's like, I agree, but our smith has not arrived, and he is not the kind of person that I would expect to be felled by a situation like this. Nor has the innkeeper or the milliner, or the miller, um, who lives down by the river. All of them have history as adventurers, and even if they didn't survive, their respective homes would likely have supplies that we might be able to make use of if we're going to try to get out of here.
I interject. There's no guarantee there's no way to knowing how long we have. They could just be coming from the fields right now, like you said. There's just not much time. What are we gonna do? I would rather get everyone to safety than worry about getting things and getting supplies.
Is there a way to get to the top of the bell tower from inside the church?
Yeah, and he kind of like looks in through the door, and he's like, "Yes, there's a ladder."
Well, do any of you have... Geez, I don't know how to ask. Proficiency with ranged weapons. I mean, I can hold things off from a distance. Who can help me, you know?
Yeah.
If...
What do I have? Hang on.
I say I'm more of a frontline fighter.
Okay.
Uh, well, yeah, I do have a small bit of proficiency with the crossbows. Unfortunately, I am without one at this time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can do my best to hold off any encroaching entities from the fields if you would like to organize some form of search party in order to
Yeah.
retrieve these 3 people.
I say
He-
I could lead a search party for if anyone wants to come with. To like scout ahead and look for some people.
I piss myself laughing. You? You? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I
People
try
are
to
going to be
hold my
tripping
temper
up
in.
over you. Sorry, my bad.
I try to hold my temper in, but it just gets too much. Like fucking bad. I swear to God, I will fuck you up.
Gentlemen, this perhaps is not the best time for your petty squabbles.
You're right. I'm sorry, but fuck him.
Right. And like Dara and Goran for their part are both like kind of like looking at each other and looking at all of you, and then like the goat is just like continuing to chew on like, I don't know, a bush, like a decorative bush that was
A
planted
book.
in front, like just oh.
Please tell me it found a Bible, because that's really iconic.
Yeah, sure, why not? Fucking the goat is just eating a Bible of like Tyr or whomever this temple belongs to. Like, it doesn't care. It's a goat.
Alright, I'm gonna scurry up the ladder to try and get a vantage point and see if what these things are and if I can hold them off.
Sure. Give me a perception check.
Okie dokie. Perception.
Y'all.
Hey.
Okay, so
Natty 19.
we have the shot then of you kind of like at the top of the tower with the bell kind of behind you as you're like leaning out into the open air, like a hand like above your eyes, probably like scanning the distance. And you can see that while a lot of the buildings in the village like were affected by the earthquake, or like some of them have been hit by falling cinders and have begun to take to flame, and some of the fields are likewise on fire. A lot of the buildings in the area still seem to be at least like somewhat intact, enough that you might be able to rummage through some of them for supplies.
Okay.
And you can see down one road, there's a building that clearly has like a large stone wrought chimney attached to it, which is likely the smithy, and that building does seem to be intact, though I think you actually see that there appears to be a group of people, like not demons or devils or any kind of like dark creature, but like actual people who are gathered around the building, and like it's hard to tell what they're doing from this distance, but like they might be trying to batter the door in.
I will call down the ladder. It seems the smith was, or the old man was correct. There is a group of people in front of what appears to be the smithy.
Are there buildings in between us and the smithy, or can we get a clear line of sight?
It would be like he can get line of sight from where he is because he's up top, but like from where you are at on the ground,
It's just like
difficult.
a maze of different like homes and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's buildings and trees and fields and
Ooh.
like blocking line of sight, right?
Ooh.
Okay, so I see
You
the kid.
go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I see the kid that we brought with us. He's still a little bit nervous and worrying because he clearly knows whoever's in that building.
Yeah.
Like you've explained where it is, and he knows who it is. So he's got
Yeah.
this visible look of like, oh no, on his face, because obviously
Yeah.
it's dark, right? It's darker. How
Yeah,
dark
like
is it?
It's night now, right?
Okay.
Like because the companion is gone, like it's dark like midnight, right? And there's smoke in the air and like drifting ash, so like it is difficult to see without the torches and lanterns that the people here have brought themselves, or at least it is for
For me.
Mr. Baugh.
Yeah.
Everyone else has dark vision, so y'all fine.
So I kneel down like on the ground next to the kid, reaching roughly, probably about the same height as Bao, just to rub it in his face, you know.
Yeah.
Float
And-
on your ass, bud.
And I look at the kid and I'm like, do you know who's in that house?
Then he kind of like sniffles a little bit and like draws in, like it's that like he's trying to be brave and he's trying not to cry, and so he like sucks in like a long like snotty breath through his nose. And he's like, yeah, he's like, the blacksmith is my grandpa.
So I jest and giggle and laugh, and I take my hand and I ruffle his head all over just to annoy him.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's time we brought Grandpa home.
You'd save him then.
Save him? He's probably saving himself. We're just gonna be in the way, but we'll bring him here.
And the kid's like I think the kid just like immediately like grabs a hold of you to like hug you, and he's just like, "You're the best, mister."
Careful, I don't want that halfling getting jealous.
Yeah. And yeah, Dara and Goran for their part is like, you know, if you tend to those that have not made it yet, we can tend to this. And he like produces like a sling from like his belt or whatever, and he's like, I will gladly lay down my life for Dara and these people. And she can sanctify the ground long enough to keep anything away that might mean us ill.
I nod and agree, and just put the fist into my palm, like, well, who wants to come along?
I mean, I guess. Fuck. Has to be. Does it have to be with you, or is there another group? Like, fuck.
What were you
What were you
saying,
saying?
Hillary?
I would jump up and say, I'll assist.
Excellent.
If you're heading out, I can guide you to the smithy from up here.
How do you intend to do that?
By shouting.
How far
you
away
know.
is the smithy?
It's a distance, right? Like, I think Goran probably like I'll put it this way, like in an above board like game master to player, like if you want to stay here and help defend the chapel, like by all means, but it would probably be more productive if you went with the rest of the group.
Then I will say, good point.
When you're right, you're right.
Yeah, and so he like. I guess you probably do. You superhero jump your way out of the tower again?
No, I'm climbing down the ladder. Come on, I'm not
Right, sure.
Maximum one superhero jump a day, takes a long rest.
Exactly. Once per day when you superhero leap.
Yeah. The first time was just because, we were already on the roof,
Yeah. And it was cool.
You gain plus 5 style points.
You come back down, and they're already kind of like ushering like the handful of survivors into the building, and like Dara has kind of gone into the middle of the structure and has like laid out some of her holy implements already, and like has like rolled up her sleeve, or like both of her sleeves, and you can see that there are these tiny like cuts like all over her arms. And she takes out like a small knife and like begins to like ritualistically like kind of like score her skin so that she can shed a bit of blood onto this like holy scripture that she's laid out, that is itself like scarred with repeated like drops of blood, and is beginning to like chant like what is probably a prayer of protection of some description to keep the place like sealed up.
Joke's on you, it's actually the hymn of the faith, okay?
Yeah, it's absolutely the hymn of the faith. And while she's doing that, and the people are kind of like gathering together around her, Goran like hooks one of you like by the arm with like his shepherd's crook or whatever, and kind of like pulls you back, and he's just like, obviously the smithy needs dealing with first, based off of your friend's intelligence, and he just assumes that you're all together because you're adventurers, right? Like, but
that's racist.
And classist.
Yeah, you're right.
But he's like, but still, the closest city to El Terrell is Baldur's Gate, and it's 200 miles away. If we're going to leave, we should investigate the mill, and we should investigate the fabled fawn, because we might at least be able to find food or drink to keep these people alive.
Shall we go then? I can lead you to the smithy. At least.
Sounds good to me. Lead the way.
Alright, sounds like a grand idea. Don't trip up on the way, halfling.
God.
Try not to let your head hit the door on the way out. Fuck.
Absolute long neck.
Absolute long neck.
Oh, yeah, you got an elephant neck there, don't you, boy? I'll be right back.
It's all good.
You two are going to be the death of us.
Probably. It'll be all that fucking else's fault. Jesus Christ.
You say that. and I I attempt to pick you up, Shanks.
Like, I fucking slap you on the fuck, or I punch you in the shin. Because that's probably about as high as I come up on you, you cunt.
I wince over, pissing myself laughing, and like, ha! You say that, but you know what? I wasn't even sure what I was gonna say. Let's have at it.
Now, children, this is not the time to squabble.
What are you, half elf and half cunt? Fuck.
Yes, Mom.
Oh, okay, mom.
I take a moment to just control my laughter because, you know, I've done some shit to this elf that's just, it's never gonna end. It's great. The elf, the halfling, sorry. And so I compose myself and I go, ha! I suppose introductions are in order. My name's Ray. I put my hand out towards you, Hillary.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Ray. My name is Lucina Melanie. And I will shake his hand.
I motion with my thumb to the halfling, say, "This one here's the mighty famous Bo Sing Ball. Perhaps you've heard of him."
Here we fucking go. Every goddamn time.
I can't say that I have.
Oh, you will.
Well, I extend a hand in greeting to Amaya and Hillary. Like, nice to meet you both.
Likewise. My name is. But you may call me Virt.
Okay. Weird it is.
It's nice to meet you, Virt. How did you come by your name?
It's a family name, actually. Why?
The
I
concept.
see. It's lovely.
And yes, I actually do have dried leaves in my hand that I am crunching just for that sound effect.
It's a very unique name. Like, I've not heard it before.
Ah, yes. I've heard of it once before. Can't remember much after I heard it, though. It was a good night.
I see.
Does anyone else spell that? I think that's shite coming from the pod.
Did anyone else hear that? No, I didn't think so.
God damn you, motherfucker! And I shake my fist at you.
Actually. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play this way. It's probably because he's too low for you to hear.
I start laughing. Like, I like this guy.
I deep or a long sigh and just go fucking arseholes.
Are we just waiting for Marcus to get back?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just letting you all have fun
Oh, okay.
for a minute.
I just wanted to make sure because
We just
I
wanted
was
a
very-
moment, okay?
I was very pleased with myself for.
Again!
I love my name is the sound of leaves being crushed in my hand.
Well, just the sound of crunching leaves. Hey, it works for a fucking ranger and a wild shaper.
No, I love it.
Or
I'm
shifter.
all about it. But yeah, so you're going to head off towards the smithy, it sounds like, now that you have kind of worked out your differences, or at least introduced one another, I guess.
Yeah.
At least the introductions.
Yeah. I'm like filling in a token that I forgot to fill in the background while you all are having your moment.
We hadn't really done introductions, so it made sense.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Whomst among you would like to roll me a d6?
I will roll a d6.
Cass will roll a d6 because it'll be low.
More than likely. Get fucked.
God damn it, Cass.
All right, so you make your way down the road through this little hamlet. Again, like like many of the homes were built like sod house style, where they were either built into an existing hill or they were built low so that they could be covered over with earth as a means to like keep out the unnatural daylight that filled the night so that people could actually like sleep.
Mhm.
But like some of the buildings that were built above ground that were clearly like shops or perhaps more well-to-do families that decided that they were okay with having like windows and heavy curtains and the like have sustained a bit of damage. Like some of the roofs are like listing. You see at least one building that has caught fire and has basically like there's no saving it at this point, right? um but otherwise, like the trip down the once scenic country lane is otherwise without incident. And you find yourself at this kind of like slightly like cul-de-sac-ish like end to this road, where there is an old building that is clearly the it's clearly like the blacksmith as I had described it, right? Like it's got
An anvil
like it's kind of
outside and stuff.
a squat building with
Like a fortress
like
or
a
some shit.
large, like there's an anvil kind of under like an awning or whatever, and there's like a way into like the back of the shop where there's clearly like a furnace and there's this big like stone chimney. There's like a quenching trough that's set out. There's clearly like hitching posts where people would be able to bring their mules or their horses to have them shoed. And there is like another building, like a shack or like a storage building nearby. And in the meantime, since you climbed down from the steeple and have spent like I don't know, probably 20 minutes or so, like because I assumed you took a careful tack as you approached, right? Like you wouldn't want to hurry for fear of being ambushed, or did you? I guess I shouldn't make this decision for you, right? Like.
We just,
Um,
I'd
Maybe
say,
Maya leading the way, probably, because he was
Yeah,
the one.
yeah.
and I can keep an eye out for things. I mean, I've got pretty good survival and perception that I can, check for the signs of an ambush.
Sure.
Yeah,
So I guess then, make me a perception check. Let's see what the situation is when you arrive based off of your roll.
Oh
Oh
no!
no!
Oh
Okay.
no!
So yeah, perhaps it took a little bit longer than you thought it should. Perhaps like maybe you like rather than saying that this is a matter of you being unobservant, perhaps you were being
Too
overly
observant.
cautious, right?
Mhm.
Like checking all of the shadows because you still smell that brimstone on the air, right? And like something clearly dark and demonic happened in this place. And so by the time you arrive, the individuals that you had seen previously who were gathered about have gone. Um, but the door to the blacksmith shop stands open, and similarly, the entrance to the storage building that stands nearby has been battered off its hinges, sundered by multiple blows. Um, and as you approach, uh, you hear. Well, I guess actually seeing this situation, like let me not put the horse in front of the cart, or the cart in front of the horse rather. Um, yeah, it looks like something like bad happened here, right? Like this isn't the way you would expect to find this place, even regardless of the situation. It looks like it's been attacked. What do you do?
Be on guard. um, I'm not so much personally. I'm not going to be so much worried about what's in the buildings. I'll try and probably keep my eyes
Like on the
in the
road, make
distance.
sure nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
happens.
Because I'm not going to be very good in a building.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess like I light my torch and then just walk in.
Right. Is anybody gonna go with Mr. Baugh, or
I'll go
is
with
the
him.
halfling on his own?
I'll go with him. As tempting as it is to watch him die and write another song, you know.
Are you going to make any attempt to be stealthy as you approach? Or
Well, I
I
would
mean,
like
I've
to.
lit a torch, so probably not.
I
sounds like
would.
no. Then.
I would like to use dark vision before we go inside.
Oh, sure. So I'll say this, right? Like your halfling friend is carrying a torch, as low to the ground as he might be, and neither of you are being particularly subtle. So as you approach the building, once you've like basically crossed the open ground and are getting close enough to the building that like a person inside might notice, you hear a voice call out from inside, like a deep, like rumbling voice, who yells at you, and he's like, "Oi! If you've come back to steal more, there's nothing left. Get on with you."
Sister, it sounds as though there may be someone in need of your assistance inside.
Lucina is already on her way into the building to assist.
So you're just gonna barrel ahead then, or I guess like
No, like yeah, because we
you
basically
and
went
Cass
to
are the
walk in.
closest. Like,
Yeah,
what are you
so,
gonna
like,
do?
I turn to the bard and say, "Well, use that silver tongue for something useful for once, God. Like diffuse the situation."
I laugh and I pull out my viol and I strum a few chords. I say strum a few chords. It's a viol.
You can strum a
Play a,
viola.
you play a few bards, or
Yeah,
few
play a few
bards,
bards.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah,
Listen,
and
we know Cass has never written his own song, okay?
there is at least one song I've written, okay, and it's very famous, far and wide. I pull it out and play a few things and say, "Ho there, friend! Just some travelers. We're seeing it's a little bit funky around here. Just wondering if you need some help or would like to join the rest of the survivors. I believe your grandson is there. I didn't catch his name. He was just too adorable."
Yeah, give me a persuasion check with advantage.
Uno momento.
Uno momento.
Persuasion with advantage.
Yeah, all right.
What?
Yeah, you. I think there's like a pause, right, where he mulls your words over, and you hear another like gruff voice from inside, like in a World of Warcraft-esque like Scottish dwarf brogue that I'm just not gonna do.
If only we had a Scot in the channel.
Who's just like,
can we just take a minute to appreciate I rolled a nat 1 for that?
and it's still a 15. Because of advantage, you're doing all right. Yeah, he's like.
Wait. No. Sorry. No, I was reading that wrong. No, I rolled a 15. My bad. I was looking at Amaya's one.
Yeah.
No, you're good. You yeah, and like this other like voice is just like, "Oh, come on. They're going to help us." And like after a brief like back and forth between the two in like hushed voices, this old man who's got like a well trimmed beard, and he's a little like balding on top, but like again another like absolute unit wearing like a blacksmith apron and like carrying like a two-handed hammer, like steps out from inside the building, and like he's clearly got like a bit of blood on his leg and he's got a bit of a limp. And he kind of like leans against the door frame and he's like, "My grandson, then? Where is he?"
He is currently at the church in the courtyard. I believe they're trying to get people inside. He's perfectly fine. His mother's a little bit hurt, but she should be okay with some simple first aid.
He kind of gives you a nod, like seeing no reason to disbelieve, and he kind of like pushes his way out a little bit further into kind of the open air. And from behind him, like a dwarf who's got who, odd for a dwarf, actually has no beard.
A shame.
It's a
And
lie. It's not a dwarf at all. It's just a fucking bastard.
yeah, and is just an absolute ginger boy. Comes out from behind him, like staggering a little bit and reeking of too much booze. And he's just like, "Oh, so there's survivors then. That's good. We might be able to get out of this alive."
I ask him if he's got any of that booze left.
Shakes his head and he's like, "No,
It's been a fucking rough day, man. Come on, give me this.
no, I don't. The bandits." And he kind of like starts rubbing his head, and he's like, "The bandits came and conked me out while the boss was gone. Took all the supplies and all my drink."
Bastards.
Can
True.
I
Oh, on you go.
can I approach the blacksmith and ask if I can treat his injuries?
Yeah, he kind of like gives you a bit of a look, as like I think you're probably used to getting as a tiefling, and then like recognizes that you're a cleric, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and he tries to find a place to sit down to make it a bit easier for you since it's an injury on his leg. I don't know. I don't presume that you're going to use magic, right? Like probably just medicine, or what's the?
Yeah, probably just like basic first aid and any medicine that I have on me.
Sure. Give me a medicine check.
Ouch.
Well, um, yeah, it's not so bad, I don't think, but this may just be one of those cases where it's like it's gonna take time, and you just don't have, short of using actual like magical resources on it, like you just don't have the ability to do much other than dull the pain in this case. Like someone will probably have to help him walk, or you're gonna have to find like a cart or something that he can ride in order to get him out of here, because like him walking on this leg is probably not going to be super conducive to it healing.
I was about to ask him if he had a cart. So, like, if he had a cart lying about that we could use, because we'll probably need it for the young and injured when we get
Yeah,
back.
and he kind of motions towards like the storehouse building that's standing nearby, and he's like, "Well, there's a cart over there when I left, but when I came back, this lout had been conked on the head, and everything's gone now. Some thugs came and stole it all."
I question him. How did thugs get here so fast and decide to do this so soon? Right? It's only been maybe
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
did they particularly dislike you? Were they taking advantage of the situation?
Did they
Yeah,
have some
and
previous, like, disagreement with you or some shit? Like,
he kind of like he gives a shrug of that, like, I'll be honest, right? Like he doesn't seem like it's one of those like a shrug because he doesn't care. Like it does seem like he earnestly isn't sure, right? He's like, when all this happened, I immediately left to go check my daughter's home, which is nearby, and he kind of like motions towards the village. And I didn't find anyone there, so I turned back to come get what I could, and when I heard the bell, I thought, grab what we can and we'd go. And when I came back, I found this place in such a state. perhaps whoever did this might be aware, or might have been aware that this, and he kind of like just motions broadly to everything,
Mm-hmm.
was about to happen. Thought they might capitalize on it, or I don't know. I'm probably one of the wealthier people in the town. Perhaps they just thought that disaster gave them an opportunity.
Okay.
How are things looking in there?
And the drunk dwarf is still kind of like leaning in the doorway. And he turns and he's like, "Well, I've got some tools left, but if we were going to try to round up weapons or material, they put that in our cart and took our donkey."
Cass, say it.
Say
it.
Say what?
Say it. Say donkey.
Donkey!
No. Oh my god.
You
Donkey.
fucking donkey!
Yeah,
fucking
fucking
donkey.
donkey. Oh.
I asked him if he's like if they've any idea which way the bandits went and like if they could have gotten far.
And he's like, I don't presume they would have gone far, or if they are, you'd likely be able to catch up with them. And you kind of like for the tracker in the party, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a laden wagon. There is a possibility that you might be able to follow the wagon wheel ruts.
Also, you know, the donkey hoofs, I guess.
Yeah, and the donkey tracks. But yeah, whilst you are having this discussion, right? You know, and he's kind of like motioning towards. He's like, "Well, the stuff was over there, and maybe you can figure something out based off of that." I think the rest of you become aware of the sound of footsteps of someone running, and like heavy, like panicked breathing coming from like the direction of the village behind you.
So like what back to the way we just come from?
Yeah, back the way you just came, right?
Readying an arrow.
Yeah, and you turn and point a bow in the direction of the sound?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, okay. So we get the shot where you turn and you're like in the dramatic like shooting pose and you're pointing an arrow, and there's just this like female half elf who like is dressed like any other peasant, who just comes like running into the area where you all have gathered, and then like screeches to a halt when she sees like a bow pointed at her, and like immediately throws her hands up in the air, and she drops this bag that she had been clutching to her chest in her arms, and as it hits the ground, like the flap falls open, and like gold coins and like baubles like spill out of it like onto the ground.
I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
And she's
Okay,
just like,
then how-
don't
then how
shoot!
about-
I don't mean any harm.
I walk up to her a little bit and go, "Well, madam, it's a bit strange to see someone running from the place of safety. You know, what brings you this way?"
Laden with gold, no less.
She kind of like looks between the two of you and then like does that like guilty like head turn away where she doesn't want to look you in the eye, and she's just like, I was just trying to find a place where I could hide from all of this, I swear.
Inside check!
Yeah.
I want to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was about to as well.
Yeah, I mean anybody that wants can roll, right?
I
Like,
was
I'm
gonna
not-
roll intimidation.
Well, Wold, she is lying like a rug.
Okay, maybe we can use this to our advantage. Perhaps as you were running, you happened to see a card that might be of use to us. I'm still
Yeah.
holding the arrow, by the way. We're still
Right.
holding.
Yeah, you're still aimed down on her, and Cass, you're trying to intimidate. What's the play here?
Now, I can clearly see you have some golden trinkets, and you're running away from the what is clearly the good place. So, if you tell me where you're going and where this lovely cart and donkey are, I won't take that from you and use it for myself.
Yeah, and so yeah, between you and the arrow that's pointed at you, which I think would probably, or pointed at her, would probably give you advantage, which like I'll just like mathematically advantage works out to basically being like a +5 or whatever. So like fuck it, right? Like I think you're gonna get what you want out of this between the two of you. She kind of just like starts sputtering, and she's just like, no, don't hurt me. I didn't uh, look, it's all still there in the houses, and they're not gonna use it. I just thought maybe I could, you know, it's hard being a half elf. You understand, I'm sure.
Cart and donkey.
Look, I did not have anything to do with that. I am an independent operator, but I did see the people. They're wearing black and green cloaks, and they were moving together as a group, and I think they headed towards that old uh, temple on the edge of town that no one uses anymore, the one that's kind of overgrown. Well, I shouldn't say no one uses it, but no one goes there because, you know, there's the Chapel of Tyr in town. You don't need to go all the way out there just to go to an old stone building, right?
I start walking up to her with a smile on my face, and I like put my hand on her shoulder with a big smile, and like, yeah. No, I totally understand you. I'm gonna roll for sleight of hand.
Okay, what are you gonna do?
Take the
What's the
pouch when she's not looking.
Oh, sure.
Ugh.
Well, I'll roll perception and see if she notices.
Nice.
Nice.
So somehow, some way, I don't know, maybe you like put like your foot in front of the pouch and like push it behind you or whatever. But like you are just, cooing softly to her and speaking platitudes of like everything's fine, I get it, I understand. And like you just move the bag out of her line of sight enough that maybe someone else in the party can like walk over and
Yeah,
casually pick it up.
the only person here I know is Bosing, and I know how much he
Yeah,
loves
like I
money.
casually walk over behind the bard and pick it up, like using my
So-
natural stealthiness.
So
Yeah.
once this is done, I go right then, and I put my arm around her shoulders, so it's like just resting on her. It's like, well, seeing as you've got nothing to do with these guys, you wouldn't mind coming along and helping us get this wagon back.
And she kind of like looks at you like pensively and bites her lip, and she's like, if I show you, you won't shoot me, right?
Oh no, I won't shoot you. He might though.
Probably, like.
And she looks between like all of you, and she's like, look, I swear I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to make some money, and it seemed like it would be so easy. But look, I don't fight. I'm not good at that. But I can show you where to go.
Be on with
That'll
it then.
that'll do. Yeah.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do, pig.
That'll do, elf. That'll do.
Yeah. So she nods a little. I don't know, like she's not happy about the situation. Let's put it that way. But like, what is she gonna do, right? You kind of got her over a barrel, as it were. And so she nods and like prepares to lead you on.
Who's got
And
the
I think
strongest strength, or who's the highest strength in this party? Because we still got to get the blacksmith and his dude out, or are we just leaving them there until we come back?
in this case, like, you could probably go get their cart and their stuff back, and then you would have a cart, right? Like at that point.
Okay.
Oh, what? We tell them to like lie low in the house until we come
Yeah.
back with our stuff, and then we'll be able to like safely get them back to the town centre.
Yeah, but they are a blacksmith who's clearly a chunky boy, and a dwarf who, I mean, he's drunk, but I mean, you should know better than anyone. Drunk people are great fighters. They're always angry.
Oh my god.
Yep. Like,
So much stereotype. But yeah, so we cut to a montage of you like walking and this woman that you've run into, whose name is Volis, by the way. She introduces herself. Has just continued to like prattle on about how like she didn't mean any harm, and she's like glad that you're giving her a chance. And before long, she directs you to an area that's like not terribly far away, and like it does coincide with like the donkey tracks and the wagon wheel tracks that you're probably able to find, just like given the fact that your character like Wold is a good like wilderness tracker, right? Like it should be fairly obvious.
Very.
And so you come to an area that is it appears to be like an old stone building that was built partially into a hill. And it's got like kind of a garden with a natural little pool and some trees and some bushes that's like encircled by a wall. And as you approach it, it does seem to have a bit of overgrowth and is in a bit of disrepair just from like time and age, and the fact that it doesn't seem to get as many visitors as it used to. But there's like religious iconography like on the outside that like probably lets you know that like Volis wasn't correct in her assessment. This is not a temple to Tyr. This is in fact actually a temple to Torm. But they both use like fists or whatever for their symbols, so it's easy how one might make the mistake. But yeah, let me just drag all of you over here, and now you should see a map.
Oh shit. That is definitely a map.
It's a map of something.
And ahead of you, you see there's kind of like the slightly raised like stone area. Not depicted on this. There is in fact a wagon like sitting close by, and like a donkey that's just like boredly chewing on some grass. The wagon has apparently been unloaded of all of its contents, and the door to at the top of those stairs like stands slightly ajar, leading into the building. Because I think even in the dark and slightly overcast, like yeah, like your dark vision, Amaya, is strong enough that you can see through this whole area to see like the open doorway and like just a little bit inside.
Okay. But I don't see anybody there, right?
No, like it seems very quiet here. Like there's no sentries that you can see. Like you know, somewhere in the distance, perhaps you hear like a weird like cackling, but there's nothing here immediately that appears to be a threat. It's just an old building that is dark on the inside. It's unlit. There's evidence that people have been here recently, but you don't see anyone.
Can we look over the wagon? How close to it is the wagon?
I mean, I think the wagon is probably like it's probably like here by the wall or whatever. Like, just I didn't put a token, but like it would
Okay.
be like pretty close by, right? Like
Can
you can walk
we-
over.
Yeah, can we walk over and make sure, see if there's anything been left?
There is well, you know what is there is there's probably an empty whiskey bottle in the back.
No. God,
It looks like this wagon recently had like stuff in it. You can see like there's probably like some nails and like some horseshoes and stuff that are just like left that fell out of a box, but like whatever crates were loaded in seem to have been
taken away.
taken away.
Just a reminder, Shanks did get a pouch or something. What did he get?
Ah, yes.
Ah, yeah.
The ladies' things.
Did you get your 5 gold pieces? Did you from that guy at the start? Did you spend them?
I'll just say I spent them on like the food and drink and the bar.
Sure.
Okay.
You ate well, it sounds
Yeah.
like. Let me. I didn't expect that you guys would rob her, so I didn't roll treasure for her. Let me.
Get used to it. Listen, it's Cass and me, and we're the fucking Steely Boys.
Absolute
No, that's-
Steely boys.
That's fine. Now I know. Uh.
I'm not actually
I-
a Steely boy. I just wanted to see if it would work, and it worked out in my
Yeah.
favor because she was incredibly unlucky.
She was
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
terrified. Like
She was incredible. She had
Yeah.
incredible. She
I
had
didn't
incredible.
notice because she had a fucking bow pointed at her face. Like
She had incredible bad luck, Cass.
Hey.
someone
Ah,
clearly didn't do a ritual
Incredible.
this morning.
Sister,
Yes.
there is a high possibility that we may need to fight upon these grounds, but I am unfamiliar with what the consequences of such action would be. I certainly don't want any bad luck heading our way for spilling blood upon the halls of a god. Any suggestions?
Be able to roll a religion check to see what the repercussions would be for killing inside the temple of this god.
Absolutely. Treasure.
Oof.
Damn.
Nice roll. Holy shit. Not
Yeah,
19.
alright. Well, Torm. You know that Torm is also known as Torm the True, or the Loyal Fury. His portfolio is duty, loyalty, righteousness, and law. His symbol, as depicted on the outside of the building, is a right-handed gauntlet held upright with its palm forward. This is the kind of god that if bandits or other foul entities are using his temple as a place to conceal themselves, he would prefer it if you drove them out than allow it to continue, regardless of the destruction that it wrecked to the place.
Okay.
Green light boys, we're fucking free to go.
Han, remind me how your character's name is pronounced.
Zirt.
Virt? Okay. Well, Virt, this particular god, he's a very lawful god, and he would not particularly appreciate this kind of hoodlum hiding out in his place of worship. So I think he would actually be appreciative if we were to fix the current situation, regardless of what happens inside his temple.
I make a small giggle and go, ha ha ha. I guess bandits back on the menu, boys. And then I smack Mosing Ball in the back.
I reluctantly chuckle at his terrible joke. Like,
God,
You're
why
like, ha ha ha, cunt.
fuck, why is that?
I imagine there's probably just a version of you it's just like, why are you like this?
That's certainly good to know. It would be bad luck if we had angered a god in his own territory.
Exceptionally bad luck, in fact.
Mhm. Do you want to stop there? Because then we're not going to get into combat without a visa. Do you want me to miss out on XP?
Yeah, I mean, we could, I'm still trying to find, I had like a really nice, like, loot table PDF somewhere, and I have no fucking idea where I put it. um,
You still need to decide what it is that Shanks has got. So he got some gold pieces
Yeah.
in something.
yeah, like, there is an amount of gold and some other, like, bits and
Trinket?
bobs. Like, she
Trinket?
stole some jewelry and like some stuff out of people's houses, and she just kind of like grabbed it together and threw it in a bag, right? And so, like, it's clear that like her story checks out in so much as she was definitely like robbing people who had just left stuff behind when they fled their homes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll keep looking for this PDF, and I can probably tell you here in a little bit as soon as I figure out where the fuck I put it, because I have too many D&D PDFs in this goddamn folder.
This
and
is
I
the
really
part
should
where you
sort
need Cat here, and you go, Cat! PDF! Now!
Cat, sort this for me. But yeah, I think we have effectively kind of like brought ourselves to what might eventually be the first combat encounter. We've kind of like established the stakes of the campaign at this point, and
the chemistry between the characters.
yeah, and kind of established what's going on. You know, we can leave off here, and hopefully, like, next time we'll have a visa. Like, we've all kind of got a feel for what's happening and what the stakes are. You haven't. Here's the thing: you haven't taken a rest yet. And that is the point at which you would be awarded experience points if there were experience points to be awarded. So the only thing that you will gain from this session is you will gain the gold pieces and the treasure which you have clearly stolen.
And the bonds of friendship.
I will keep track of that stuff, and I will try to get that to you here in a few minutes.
Okay. We know
Obviously,
that there's a. We know that
I
there's
will
a
keep
weird.
track of
On your go.
any experience that you have gained, like in the background. I have a document for that.
So
And then obviously there is some piety to be earned here, right? Like, at least once during this session, you know, Hillary, you went out of your way to tend to the dead rather than immediately fleeing when it would be in your own best interest. So I think that is worth a piety point. Amaya, you have clearly demonstrated that you would like uphold the rituals of your deity and try to keep people from having bad luck befall them. So I believe that should be worth a piety point. Similarly, you went out of your way to cheer someone up there, Cass. So you get one as well.
Yay!
And without hesitation, you engaged in a game of chance with a weirdo that just appeared out of nowhere. So Shanks, you will also gain a piety point for doing as Timora might bid.
Yeah.
And because I was not as on it as I should have been, because I was just kind of getting carried away with narration, you all can go ahead up at the top of your character sheet where it says inspiration. You can go ahead and tick inspiration, because I think all of you have done quite well in role playing this session.
Oh, look at us. We're doing great.
Cool.
we're making out like bandits.
Hey!
Anyone?
You're not the bard anymore. Get out.
Get out!
I already made that joke.
If anyone's making the bad jokes around here, it's the bard. God damn it! Like, fuck.
God damn it! Like, don't step on someone else's character role. But yes, so as usual, I in my game mastering ways, uncertain in my abilities, I'm just going to hope that you had fun.
That's alright.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah.
Great DM.
Thank you.
You should be working in the movie industry because you're like your
Camera does
narration-
this.
Like, okay, so let me give you an example. I once watched a movie for the blind. Right?
Holy shit!
So-
Hang on, you watched the movie?
Yeah. No, but like, so you know how they make subtitles
like,
for deaf people?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, subtitles for the blind.
Voice description.
Yeah, they do a voice. So they don't have any. They yeah, it's literally theater of the mind, and they show the movie, but there's this dude narrating the whole time about exactly what's going on, and that's what this was like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's funny you mentioned that. That's actually one of the things that like I kind of got into for a while to try to improve my narration was like listening to that stuff because it's like I like the efficiency of trying to be like how could I describe an entire scene but not just like spend hours like describing every detail, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. No, it was
so
really, really fucking cool, man.
yes, I'm glad you all had fun because that's the fucking point, right? Like that's why I enjoy game mastering. Even if we didn't get into a fight yet, at least everybody got to make some skill checks and kind of figure out their characters and their motivations.
And I
right?
got to take the piss out of the halfling, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
It's the
Yep.
friends we ribbed along the way, right?
Aw, friend! Nursery rhyme friend, aw!
Fucking Bard will go out the way to cheer people up, unless it's the fucking halfling. 'Cause
Right?
and like literally next session, like I made a joke before we even started playing, and I was actually referencing Sash because Sashman wanted to also be in the game, and I was like, well, can he commit to being here every other